Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Today, talking about Visit Isle of Man, talking about the new Destination First board, which is set up to deliver short-term wins for the wider visitor economy. Deborah Heather is here, the head of Visit Isle of Man. The political member Sarah Maltby MHK is here, and Ranald Caldwell is here. So, Faster Mike, good afternoon, everybody.
Faster Mike.
So, Ranald Caldwell, first, you're on Destination First, aren't you?
I'm the new chair of Destination First, yes.
The new chair, okay. So, are you still involved in Visit Isle of Man as well?
No, after 6 years, I've stepped down, and we've introduced a new chair to the board to take over, and Deborah's assigned me to look at how we can make the island a better place to live and provide service to its highest possible level.
What was the thinking, Deborah Heather, behind Destination First?
So there's a bit of background. In 2019, the board then of Visit Isle of Man decided to set up an organisation called Visitor First. And when I joined as CEO, what I was seeing was this Visitor First collaboration, I guess, was being less effective than it could have been. It was very much at officer level. What I felt was, one, we needed to up the ante on it, so we needed to make it much more powerful and make things happen in a much more effective way. But two, actually, it wasn't really about the visitor. This was about the destination as a whole. Now, Visit Isle of Man have got three sort of main work streams. One is destination development, so yes, the big infrastructure pieces around tourism. It's got business development and marketing, which is us hunting for visitors to come to the island. But actually, relatively speaking, the visitors are pretty satisfied with the island. We just need to get more of them here. So our passenger survey scores are 98.9%. These are either satisfied or very satisfied, so the equivalent of net promoter 9 and 10s. Yeah. So we do really well. And I think naturally residents are more critical of where they live because they see things day after day and they want things to be the best because they're bought in and they've got a passion for it. Inevitably, that benefits the visitor if we improve things. But we thought if we took a slightly different focus and looked at destination stewardship, which is basically what Destination First is about, and try and focus on trying to make things happen from a service perspective especially, and a day-to-day things about improving things on the island.
Okay. When you say we get good scores, are these from cruise passengers or everybody?
Everybody. So these are we do a passenger survey which is based on it's a tourism thing called the Cambridge model. So it's a scientific way of getting feedback from visitors, and we employ a company to do that for us on a quarterly basis.
Is that done here or?
It's done here.
Right. Okay. And typically, what sort of questions are they asking?
There's a whole stream of questions from what they like to do while they were here, what they thought of things, what they thought of the quality aspects, value for money. There's a whole host of things. We publish it on the Visit Isle of Man website, so anybody can have a look at the question set if they'd like to.
Okay. Sarah Maltby MHK, what's your view of Destination First?
Well, it's really a very different approach. We haven't done anything like this before. This is Ranald is the first chair of the Destination First board, and really he's brought together, by communicating and having fantastic links with different community groups throughout the island, he's brought together these people who are going to sit on this board, and really is for the best for the island. So we have local authorities, we have people who are very well known on the island for promoting the island who are sitting on the board. I am on the board too. So it's a really good way to collaborate, to get people together who are in all parts of government, well, not all parts of government, obviously DOI, the DEFA and obviously DFE, to come together with the local authorities to try and work together to be able to produce better results for the island.
Okay, if you want to get in touch, by the way, text, email, call and WhatsApp 66 13 68 166 177, text and WhatsApp, and email studio@manxradio.com. So Ranald Caldwell, what will success look like? Have you got an idea of what success will be for Destination First?
Yeah, for me it's Sarah picked up there in relation to a collaborative partnership. We've got a clear mandate to look at service provision, to make service provision the look and way we feel across the island as good as it could be. And many times in this programme, your individual callers highlight things that aren't right.
Yeah.
And we're not very good at shouting about things that we do well. So the things that are shouted about are addressed but never dealt with. So we've got a clear mandate from Tynwell, which we got in November. We've brought together a collaborative partnership with 5 local authorities wishing to be on the board. Some familiar names you'll come across: Phil Gaughan, Jason Roberts, Catherine Rice from Douglas, Jamie Smith and Ross Phillips from Onken. We've got Sarah, we've got Jason Moorhouse, as you know, always likes to wave the flag about issues that need to be addressed. Charles Gard, as you know very well, and his views on brownfield sites, etc., is on board and very much our conscience throughout this process. Joe Davis from the Cultural Vannon's on, Deborah and myself, and then more importantly, we've got 2 of the main departments in government, the chief officers, Scott Gallagher of DEFA and Emily Kerfrey of DOI. So we're working in partnership to understand what insights are telling us and how we go about addressing those.
Okay. As you mentioned, it's always the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. You know, people complain about things that go wrong. So how important is it to accentuate the positive? How important is it, do you think? As you say, we live here, we spot things that are wrong because we know when things go wrong. So how do we accentuate the positive? How do we do that? Is that a mentality, or?
I think it's really a service culture, Andy, that we have to be, talk things up rather than down. We certainly want to hear those things that are wrong, because then we can address them. And we're going to be capturing new ways how we capture those insights of the consumer and the government at large. But we've got a role to play in lifting what we do well. Everybody in this island loves this island, really, in large, and wants to see the best for itself and its community. So we are working towards delivering that. And we will be quite seamless in how we do it. We'll be working with departments, local authorities, to deliver things you probably won't see, but those departments will hopefully raise and take credit for the issues that are being delivered.
You talked about short-term wins. What sort of things will you be looking at?
We're certainly looking at a process we'll deliver in the long term by bringing together a process with a clear mandate to deliver. But in saying that, we're very conscious that as we go through the process and identify shortcomings, that those are addressed. And I'll give you a few examples to sort of bring it to life. On this programme, you've often raised the issue about railings that haven't been painted to Douglas Head. They're now all painted. DOI have done a wonderful job, supported by Douglas Borough Council, and most of the harbour railings have been painted as well. The ferry bridge is now on the asset register of DOI and will be maintained to a visitor standard every year in May. Bus shelters that we raised 2 months ago, where all the decals in Lord Street were being ripped off from the inside, have all been replaced on the outside, lifting the way we look and feel. Deborah took charge of the Welcome Centre last month to really take ownership of the welcome that we provide, not only residents but visitors as they come across. And we'll talk about the developments of both our air and sea terminals. Interpretation boards, Charles, particularly wants to get in place so we tell everybody about our assets and can share them. Signage is in the right place, still relevant, because many of our signs are still up about 5% that should come down. Changing places, well, Mrs. Maltby's championing that every day as far as I'm concerned. And then we are in dialogue to create a new volunteer force to improve with maintenance. And I suppose the one thing that I can highlight, we've an agreement with the prison to help and support prisoners, help us with some of the maintenance on the island, with the primary purpose of rehabilitating those prisoners back into our community, with giving them skills, etc., that might be useful in securing a job when they leave prison. So we are moving forward in a very constructive, very meaningful and very targeted way. So long-term views, but taking the short-term opportunities as they arise.
Chair of Destination First is Ranald Caldwell, Sarah Maltby MHK and Deborah Heather is the Chief Exec of Visit Isle of Man. On Mannin Line today, let's get to the phones.
Good afternoon to you, Deborah. Good afternoon to you, Ranald. It's Nigel Sperring from Albany Tours and Albany House, Isle of Man. Just want to quickly touch base on cruise ships. A very good season I think we've all had. It's very successful, and everybody enjoyed it, even though the summer wasn't brilliant. But I've eaten too many scones, jam and cream, and lots of queenies, and my passengers have enjoyed some Ocals and some local products. So just to touch base on saying that my average spend is about 165 per passenger, so that's good for the economy, and that doesn't include my booking fees. And Albany House has been doing well as well. So great to see the pods at the sea terminal. I think it would be quite nice if we could incorporate other suppliers as well into 2025. I know probably the pods weren't quite their thing, but I think we see Manx Royal Show and Christmas fairs and that, where we see some wonderful suppliers making wonderful products, and I think we need to give the local economy the opportunity to set up their stores throughout 2025 season, whether it's a marquee down at the sea terminal, and letting the cruise passengers see exactly what we can offer for them, and they do enjoy that. They've told me that. One final thing, I think, really, as we've touched base before, just to get the sea terminal tidied up and cleaned up for 2025. But I'd just like to thank you both for all what you're doing, and me and Nikki will continue working hard like we do for the next season. So thanks very much, and well done.
That's from the answer phone from Nigel. He's obviously busy out with customers today. Your views on what Nigel had to say, Deborah?
Yeah, I mean, it has been disappointing season in terms of weather, but that's the same across the whole of the UK, our biggest feeder market. So you have to take the rough with the smooth. This year was affected by a very rainy beginning of the season and then a really early Easter, and they always knock you for six a bit. But the opportunity for us still remains. The cruise season has been better than last year. We're talking to Liverpool, who have working with some company called Global Ports. They've outsourced their cruise over there, and they think there's 800 ships in the Irish Sea, so there's still a lot for us to go for, which is brilliant news. I think the sea terminal piece, to Nigel's point, we as a visit team will be moving down into the Welcome Centre after we've made some structural changes in November, December time, and from then on in we'll be working towards prepping that whole area for the season. We are about to contract some people to go into the other pods, so fingers crossed we can make it as lively as possible, and actually not purely focused on cruise. We can have events and things outside of the cruise days, so we can showcase our produce, as he said.
Are we at capacity with cruise liners?
No, not at all. We will always have slightly limited, because we haven't got a deep water port, so the way we have to take people on and off the boat. But we have actually the capacity to do more bigger ships in Douglas, and then push some of the smaller ships into the other ports and towns, which is great for the other local economies in different places as well. As Nigel said, they do spend an awful lot of money. It's a myth that they don't spend in the economy.
I was going to say, can you nail that fallacy? I mean, the fallacy that cruise passengers spend, they pay to come off the boat, and then they know they're getting free food and drink on the boat, so they don't spend.
The Cruise UK estimates at £70 per person, and that was last year's numbers. I don't know what they'll go to this year. They have a way of calculating that, and we take their average spend rather than. But you can hear from Nigel, as you just heard, that they're paying him an awful lot more. He's getting much bigger average spends. We know from the excursion companies what those that join the coaches and go around the island, how much they're spending, which is an awful lot more than the £70. So we're taking a low average, but we think it was about 1.5 million last year, and this year it will have grown.
How do the cruise companies, do they get in touch with you to book a slot, or how does it work?
We have a company we work with that take the bookings for the cruises, then coordinate. They're a ground handling force. They coordinate with the tours groups. They coordinate with the Manx National Heritage and Manx Heritage Rail, and all the other people that offer excursion opportunities, and they organise it from there. So yeah, I mean, there is different parts to it. We need to do some more business development, but that's great, because it's all upside as far as I'm concerned, Andy.
Okay, your guest is dead right, says this WhatsApper, 690. Talk things up. We're privileged to live in a beautiful, safe and friendly community. Many people just whinge and moan about everything. Defend where you live against those negative keyboard warriors and those people who just can't wait to run down the Isle of Man. Of course, nothing's perfect, but the Isle of Man is amazing to live, so enjoy to make the most of it. I guess you're always hardest on those close to you, Sarah Maltby. So the Isle of Man is well known for being, shall I just say, introspective about things that go wrong sometimes.
Well, I think you probably find that in most places, to be honest. I think what we have on the Isle of Man is people who've got really high expectations. We are proud of this island on the whole, and when you do spot things, you kind of want it fixed tomorrow. You don't want to wait, because you kind of think, well, I'm paying for this service and I want this service to be delivered, or I want it to be as best as it can be. And I think that's what Destination First Board is all about. It's about picking up those items. Like, as an MHK, I get my inbox is flooded from constituents who are raising many different matters, and I will then refer that onto the DOI or onto whichever Douglas City Council for them to be able to look into. But Destination First Board gets everyone in the same room together, and actually be able to talk is far more effective than just sending out emails and trying to find a solution based going forward, because you can't just fix it and say, right, that's it, then we fix that dirty sign. We need to make sure it's in a programme of maintenance, so it's going to be on rolling basis to be maintained, because it's no good just putting a sticky plaster over something and saying, oh, I've done that now, well done me. You kind of need to have this joined up approach to make sure that it's not just fixed for today, but it's there for the future.
Okay, what do your constituents say about the airport?
About the airport?
Yeah.
What connectivity-wise?
Well, I mean, we've obviously had issues with air traffic control with planes not getting here. We now have arrivals and departures that are concertinaed in because of air traffic control restrictions. I mean, is the functioning of the airport, is that pivotal to the visit economy?
Of course, getting here and get on and off the island is very important, not just to visitors but to residents as well. So of course it's a topic that is raised with me. Most people understand when you live on an island that there's going to be some level of disruption. Travel insurance is a must. However, I think there has been global factors that have contributed to the problems that we're having on the Isle of Man, and I think it's so important to recognise that it's not just an Isle of Man problem. This is a problem that we're seeing literally everywhere, and I think the Isle of Man is trying its best to protect its residents, but of course there's going to be some times where that just doesn't happen, and we are prone to having disruption, which is very unfortunate and obviously very inconvenient for people, especially if they've got onward travel, but it's not something that we're just ignoring and hope it goes away. Deborah is very much involved in conversations around connectivity, and sits on different boards to do with that. So this is not something that we're just hoping will just fix itself. We are actively trying to help.
Deborah, Heather?
Yeah, so as Sarah said, there's global issues around air, particularly because of air traffic. And actually, a lot of the issues we get are because of the way we're attached onto other airlines. So the way the airlines go, they'll do a sort of medium haul, and we're a nice little extra number that they can add in. But if there's a problem with air traffic control in Europe, which is normally one of the things, especially in the summer, that impacts us, or there's a problem with Gatwick because they've got air traffic controllers, that we're seeing the impact of that. I think the airlines post-COVID are a good 5 years off being up to where they were before. There was a lot of countries introduced green levies, so there was a lot of aircraft grounded after that because airlines couldn't afford to run them. So that model is working its way out. We are not unique in this position. But I'd also like to add, I mean, I moved here 18 months ago. At that point in the UK, the train strike situation was incredible, and the flooding. And so, as I say, it's not even just the air stuff. There are other modes of transport that are really affected in different places at different times, and it's part of some of the issues we have to work toward correcting. Okay,
I mean, what's the proportion of our visitors that come by air? Is it majority by sea, or what's the breakdown?
It's switched around a lot in the last post-COVID. So it used to be majority by air. We used to have not so much more airlines, but we used to have more routes going, and so we're seeing the impact of the problems with the airlines in that sense. We are switching over. It's now sort of 50-50-ish, depending on the season. And it's one of the reasons we got a new boat and look to support the community in terms of connectivity.
Okay, let's get to the phones now. And Juan's on now. Hi, Juan. You're live with Visit Isle of Man and Destination First.
Destination First. Good afternoon, Andy. Hi, panel. How are you?
Good, fast am I.
Fast am I. Yeah, just picking up on a few points there. It's been great to see so many cruise ships in this year, and the amount of coaches that we've had in as well, especially on the shoulder season, which extends the season for us. And obviously the tourism is a great thing for the island because it's not putting pressure on our infrastructure. The people come, spend their money and go. So that's great. And picking up on Sarah, what you said there before about joined up and fix it tomorrow. I just wanted to go on to a couple of points which I've mentioned on here for the last 2 years, actually. Like the railings on the far end of the promenade the Rustus Railus has been sat in the sand for like 2 years. Douglas Council go past it every day with their flashing lights on, inspecting the promenade. But them railings have been sat there rusting for 2 years. And at the end of August, they decided to put some nice bright red and white shiny tape over where they'd fallen off. Now, this is a place where, I go along the promenade a lot, and we have a lot of tourists going along there, promenading and walking along. Is that not a sign of laziness? So I just ask, have you got any joined-up connection with the council on fixing these matters? You look at Port Erin and Peel, they've got an identity, but we seem to have the gateway to the island through the ferry is Douglas, and we seem to have an identity problem there with stuff. And
okay, all right, let's get to Ranald Caldwell.
Yes.
Douglas, city, capital city.
Yep, we're working very closely with Douglas Council, who are on our board. We're raising issues. I raised myself personally the signage in Douglas itself, to toilets, to visitor centres, etc., etc. So they're looking to address those. I'll put it on my list, Douglas railings. But from the feedback that I've got, once we've raised something, they do tend to look at it, and as per the list I gave before. So I'm confident that I'll have a view as to what we're going to do with those railings within a week.
Jewin?
Yeah, well, that would be great. 2 years down the line, and I've mentioned it on here quite a few times, and we've got 12,000 listeners on this show, so you would have thought that something would have been done by now, but I appreciate that, Ranald. And the other thing that I wanted to pick up on, Manx National Heritage. And look at, I go around the heritage sites quite a lot. I've got an interest in tourism. The House of Mannin has been tired for some time now, and obviously there's a lack of funding. But I believe you have a storage place where you have a lot of artifacts and stuff that's stored, and some that was taken out of Castle Rushen when you put the timeline boards in. Now, there's empty spaces in the House of Mannin and stuff which is broken down there and really tired. My question is, why is this stuff from the story of man being stored and not being out to the public and put in these rooms and maybe brighten these rooms up in the House of Mannin and tidy it up and get it vibrant again? It would have to spend a lot of money. Just use the stuff that you've got in storage to put out there.
Okay. Do you speak to M&H, Ranald?
Manx National Heritage through Pauline will actually sit on the board as well. We've raised a number of issues with Manx National Heritage to look at how they can improve some of the service deficiencies that we're seeing that have been raised before. So they've got it in view, and we're waiting for a response.
We say this with love because we're all in the same boat, but the House of Mannin used to be state-of-the-art. The voice of the great Anthony Quayle, who was the narrator, it used to be sensational. With the most fondness we can muster, it's not what it used to be. It's obviously down to money, Ranald.
A lot of what we're talking about in this world is down to money. We're looking at not only the collaboration but working in partnership to deliver synergies and to look at those priorities that need to be addressed first. We're 12 weeks into the start of this programme, so we'll be taking a view further down that line. What we will be doing is delivering to COMIN by the end of November a clear view of what we've seen and what our recommendations are. So this is not a long process of 2-3 years to come to a solution. We'll be on it from day one, and as Sarah knows, some of the petitions you can work on take a long while to come through. Destination First does not have that model. It's very much about seeing, addressing, and moving on.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Andy.
Good to hear from you. A note in from Vivian, who just said Ranald was talking about a list of priorities, and this report is going to COMIN?
Council of Ministers, yes.
Council of Ministers. And she just said, I'll tell you what she said. She said, are you going to be telling them things that are unpalatable, or will you tell them what they want to hear?
My job is to tell them what I see, along with those people on the board. So we won't be holding back. If we want to improve, we have to be honest.
Yeah.
We have to look at the service provision that we provide through bringing into view our KPIs and holding ourselves accountable to them.
Okay. Great to see that Marine Drive railings have been repainted. So simple things make a visual impact. The weed killer that's been sprayed on Marine Drive would help, and the railings repainted island-wide, like the Paulson Park railings. And again, I think we even said this last time, a coat of paint makes all the difference. So, a lot of this will be simple coats of paint, Deborah Heather.
It will, and I think that was proved by the ferry bridge, which Ranald made a few calls and got sorted with the help from, it was Carl at DOI, wasn't it? So it was great. The other thing I wanted to point out, actually, that is Jo Davies, that Ranald mentioned earlier on, that's on the Arts Council. Jo's a visual artist. We've deliberately asked her to join us so that she can help us with actually making good taste decisions on things that we're trying to deliver.
That's interesting, because often the rational world often overlooks the creative world, and people make rational decisions, overlooking but creativity is all about the Isle of Man, making things beautiful. And again, for our visitors who come to the Isle of Man, they're often swept away by the natural beauty.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm looking out of your window now and it's stunning, and it still continues to blow me away. But it was really important for us to have someone like Jo to guide us through those customer journey pieces and making sure that we're because we will be blindsided. I used to run hotels, and we used to call the housekeeping sometimes got room blindness because they were seeing the same thing over and over again. You have to have that pair of eyes to contribute properly and make sure we can deliver as best as we can.
Okay, can you extend the summer season? Is it possible?
It is possible. You need a good high wind. You need some consistency with our promotional plans. We need to keep going on it. It takes a lot more work to deliver the bits that are harder to deliver, which is kind of obvious from a marketing perspective. But that's why we're busy working with the travel trade. So we have a full-time salesperson we have for the last 18 months in the UK trying to get new business over to us. We've done a big review of the events programme and what we could do next on that. So that's imminent as well for delivery. But it takes hard work, and that's what we have to put into it.
Okay. Where are we advertising at the moment? Is it newspapers, magazines, social, television, radio?
Nearly all social. Sorry, but social is the cheapest and most effective way to go forward. What you have to do is try and create stunts. And actually with the high winds, sometimes you get things that support you. So this year we did a big video on the Guild of Travel Writers. We did a video with There's More to It, which was about ITT, about TT and extending the season and stuff. And then we've just released one, an autumn-winter campaign, which will be going out in different parts to look at driving through. But you have to, socials are so much more powerful. And last year, I'll give you an example, we had the Silver Gibbon story, and that just took us worldwide. So sometimes you need a bit of high water, a bit of luck and high water, but it's certainly something we'll endeavour to just keep building so we can deliver.
Okay, and who monitors that? Who? I mean, is there a value for money ratio to all that?
Oh yes, we do a return on investment on everything we do, and we have a third party that measures all of the impact of that too.
Okay, Jed. Hi, Jed. You're live with Deborah and with Ranald and with Sarah. Hi, Jed.
Hi, I'd like to commend Heather for the energy that she's bringing to the party. It's so refreshing. I think speaking out against the pricing structure of the steam packet really spoke volumes, so a round of applause there. Well, what I'd like to bring up is, as you know, I'm involved in tourism and probably deal with over 2,000 visitors per year. And during the weekend, we have Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, things start to close down, and it's difficult to find restaurants and bars that are actually functioning, without any life. Now, this is so important to our community. It's jobs, it's part of our economy. And if we've got a successful nightlife, it retains people on the island and gives us so much more well-being. I'd like to ask Heather, is how can we deliver the best visitors to keep our pubs and restaurants going? Are we looking for particular groups? And what are we going to do about it? What opportunities have we got ahead?
Sorry, Jed, it's Deborah. I know I have the most confusing name in the world, but there you go. But nice to talk to you. It's different strategies for different times of year and different focuses. So we have to look at different leisure markets, what leisure markets is appropriate for different times of the year. Obviously, they have a good onward spend. Some of the strategies we thought about is getting 4 people in a car rather than 2, so we get more incremental spend. So it's quite complex to explain on here, but I'm more than happy to take you through it. But we have to do things in all sorts of markets, which is why it takes such a lot of hard work.
Okay. In the past, I think Jed last time talked. I think you mentioned in the past, Jed, we don't want to race for the bottom.
No.
Okay, and that's a deliberate strategy. We're not going for mass tourism spending money on lager.
No, absolutely not. So this is a place that I don't want to categorise it too much, but this is a place that's small, unique, and actually what we have a chance to do here is grow our tourism without getting into over-tourism. And that fits in with what Destination First is trying to do to improve the offer, because then we can attract, frankly, visitors that are going to contribute to the economy a bit more, and that will always be our target market.
Okay, and we all know, Jed, golfers spend a lot of money, is that right?
They do indeed, but there's other groups who've got the FC Isle of Man opportunity, which I love. I see that, growing even more because, the form is good and they might even get promoted. But having these packages where they could have a cheap boat ticket, come over during the winter months and fill a few pubs out, it's got to be irresistible, hasn't it?
Yeah, I can't disagree, Jed. Absolutely, yeah. As I say, there's a few different segments we've really got to appeal to, and we've got to be across all of it.
And the Ravens take on Ramsbottom this Saturday, 6:00, Jed.
Yeah, well, it's pure gold, isn't it? But I do think that you've got a lot of responsibility now, having the visitor economy to drive forward, and I do think that the pubs in town are lacking. They're looking a little bit sad. Sundays and Mondays they're closing, and bars are really struggling. And I really do wish that you can link in, say, with the steam packet for some very friendly fares, and maybe just add a little bit more spice and bringing those people over, because you go to Liverpool and it's full of people in the bars and the clubs and so forth. And I think we're entitled to some of that. We can't really be a little bit too snobbish about that market.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jed. Good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Okay, 22 minutes now before 1. Silo thinking is something that management matrices try to get away from. And Ranald, it seems that you're trying to pull everybody into the same room to get away from that concept of silo thinking. How do you get people to break down the barriers around their organisation to collaborate?
Dialogue, trust, an open agenda, challenge, because I think we need to be challenged. I think some areas are reluctant maybe to share with them the KPIs that they have for their area in case it's used against them. But we're moving forward collectively, and I think I'll just take this opportunity to say that the public have a huge role to play in all of this. This is not about government, it's not about the providers. We will be capturing the sentiments of residents through a survey at the beginning of the year, and we're launching 2 codes at the start of the year. Firstly will be the countryside code, how to behave in the countryside, how to look after our towns through you could say maybe the relaunch of a Keep Man campaign, which was last done in 2011. But this is not a campaign that will start and end. This is about a culture, the development of a culture of an island who wants to look after a beautiful place and keep it a beautiful place. I saw when I was in the Lake District, because litter is a particular issue for me, no litter, and there were signs there and said, this is a special place, leave no trace. We've got a role to play, each and every one of us. When you see litter bins at the beach, when it's full, all the bags are put to the side, etc., etc. So we all have a role to pick up that litter and to take it home with us. And beach buddies really do a great job in what they do. So I've been speaking to Bill, and we'll be taking all those 3 campaigns and looking how we deliver them into the school environment and start to educate the youth of today to say, you've got a social responsibility, and this is the way the island expects to look and you to behave.
Okay, we're back in just a few moments' time on Mannin Line, talking about the visitor economy, talking about Visit, our tourists, what we can do, how it can be improved, and also Destination First on Manx Radio.
Hi, it's Connor Cummins here. I'd just like to wish Manx Radio a very happy 60th birthday.
Island Hearing Limited, your local hearing care specialist since 2009, with branches in Port Erin and Ramsey. We provide the very latest hearing aid technology available, which you can try at home, with excellent aftercare and a wax removal service available using microsuction. Give us a ring on 830 722 or visit Island Hearing at One Station Road, Port Erin. We're happy to help. Island Hearing, always listening.
Do you know a scrap man? 'Cause I've got scrap to clear. Cars in copper, brass and lead, and I need cash for beer.
What? You don't know a scrap man? Gastains of Vauxhall is the one for you. Gastains will take all scrap metal and is also licensed for dry cell and lead acid batteries. So don't delay. Ring 801 337 now.
So now we know a scrap man and all our scrap's been cleared. Ring 801 337, then have cash for beer. Call cost dice a day and get yourself a beer.
Check out the Groudle Glen Railway timetable for some great days out. Visit the Clifftop Tea Rooms and Sales Emporium, book a special steamed tea, and join our free family train spotting challenge. Hop on the line that goes uphill to the sea, the Groudle Glen Railway. For times, see ggr.org.uk or visit on Facebook.
The previous message was brought to you by QVH, the island's premier serviced offices and co-working space in the heart of Douglas. Call 639 940 for more information or visit qvhpremierofficespace.com.
The party is over.
Yes, the party is over for me. This Thursday, it's the last in the present series of trips to the archive room, the place to find tension.
Hello, is there anyone in?
Stay where you are. You can't help them now. Nobody can.
Good advice.
Never judge a sausage by its skin is my motto.
And surprises, like when you find out where Peter Kelly was when he said...
In fact, it was rather like a large hangar.
Meet me at the door to the archive room this Thursday at 5:30. And then if you can't manage without your weekly fix of nostalgia, go to manxradio.com and pick up a podcast. And I've heard tell that there just might be a Christmas special.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
We're talking about the visiting, the tourism, destination first. Just a quick one with Sarah Maltby MHK. What's your view of them cutting the bus service to Crignish?
So this is something that Ranald has been working on for some considerable time now. When he was a visit chair, he took on the mantle and tried to represent visit within the DOI. So he probably be the one who could fill you in a little bit more on what's actually been happening rather than just an anecdotal.
The bus story.
Well, I think if I take it at a sort of a national level, buses generally, it's not a good look at the moment, but I can assure the listeners that Bus Van and indeed DOI are looking seriously at how they address the current issue, but more importantly, look at the solution where we don't actually have it at a level again, or it's minimised. And then the new transport strategy, which will be out shortly, I believe, hopefully, I'm looking to see that that's actually covered therein. But particularly in relation to the route to the Sound, Route 28 as it's known, I'm a personal advocate of it. I was working with Russian Heritage Trust to help develop that in partnership with Manx National Heritage, Bus Vannin, the Blue Badge guide holders, the food and beverage providers at the south. And there was a general view that that peninsula is more than just about Craigness. It's about the chasms, it's about Moe Hill, the RAF station. It's going down watching the seals, etc., to the Calf of Man. So you can spend a long day there, and getting there is very important. And as we move away from the car, maybe it is even more important. It came down to commerciality from a Bus Vannin perspective, that it wasn't covering its costs. Some would argue that there wasn't enough advertising to sell it, and I wouldn't disagree with that. So I think there is a collaborative approach where we can get together and decide what's best and how we best service that. It could well be Bus Vannin, it could well be an independent provider that we did have meetings with to see if they could provide it. They had an issue in terms of capturing the ticket price, but we will be looking at those options to hopefully come up collectively with a solution.
I mean, the public, if you like, figuratively threw their arms up and just said, Ranald, this is Craigness, this is the south, this is not anywhere, this is an iconic place on the Isle of Man. And if government, DOI, think so little of, the iconic folk villages, you say, the chasms, Moe Hill, everywhere else, the views, then people were just thinking, what hope is there if government can't be bothered with that?
You're right, and very much it falls very much within destination stewardship. and we'll certainly be making the case and how we can support in putting together a package to make it economically viable, not only for visitors who might subsidise resident transport, but it's an issue which is on our list and will be addressed.
Okay. Hi, Joe. You're live on Mannin Line today. You're with the panel.
Hi, good afternoon, studio. I wanted to make a comment. Just talk a lot about how the island looks to visitors when they arrive. We don't necessarily talk about how the visitors see the island when they leave. And by that I mean, given the weather and given the situation that we have with aircraft delays and various things that are beyond the control of ground staff, etc., if you take the facilities at the airport, why do we have a little shop that sells expensive perfume? Nobody needs to buy expensive perfume from a little shop on the Isle of Man. What we could have is a far better display of local products, souvenirs that visitors take away with them, or souvenirs that business travellers pick up at the airport to take home to their kids or as gifts for the people they're meeting in London or elsewhere, and also the food offering, both at the airport and at the sea terminal. If you have any kind of food intolerance, if you're stuck at the airport, you're going to go hungry. If you're stuck at the sea terminal, you're going to go hungry. So just as part of that general review, you want people to have a good final impression of the island. And if their plane is delayed or if the boat is delayed, the ability to have something to eat and drink and a mooch around the shops. We're not Gatwick. We're never going to have all of those outlets, but something more relevant, more Manx, I think is just vital. And I'd just like to throw that into the mix.
Are you talking about landside or airside, the other side of departures or this side of departures at the airport?
Sorry, at the airport, airside. Although, to be honest, landside, to be honest, I don't think it's... I personally travel far less by air than I did since COVID. I don't think I've seen the cafe open since COVID. I'm sure it does, but certainly airside, you're very limited. It is the Costa franchise, and to be fair to them, I think on occasion, you see the people at Costa working incredibly hard under, difficult circumstances with tired and irritated customers. But you will also have some hungry customers who can't get anything to eat because they don't cater for people with dietary intolerances.
Okay.
And I think for some people that's really important.
Deborah?
I wouldn't disagree with you, Joe. Just to point out, though, the passenger survey is done on exit. It's not done on arrival. So we're not getting that particularly. I think the airport is kind of well loved sometimes by the passengers because it's just so easy to get in and out of. It's a bit more like a bus station than a Manchester version. But I take your point, but we actually don't have in our regulations around food intolerances like you do in the UK, and I think that's something we need to improve across the island. We don't have those. The parts of the menu that has to show exactly what's in it, and we don't have those things, and that is something we need to encourage our operators to get to. There is a wider plan for the airport, which is much more longer term because it will require some investment. But I do take your point; it's a limited offer. They are restricted by space, and they could do it better. I'm sure it's something we can have a chat with somebody about to see if we can make a difference in the short term.
And who runs that? I mean, who runs the catering and the shopping outlets?
They're outsourced.
So, but I mean, does the DOI appoint those people, or is it the airport director?
The DOI will go to tender, and obviously the airport director will be involved, I would have thought. But we can have those conversations, have a look at it. Okay.
All right, Joe, good to hear from you. Thanks for that.
Lovely. Thank you.
All right. Text, email, call, and WhatsApp. Deborah Heather, and also Heather Deborah would like to talk to you. Where does Ireland fit into this, both the Republic and Northern Ireland?
So obviously we've got we've had some cancelled flights to Belfast. The Republic we're doing quite well with in terms of air. We're working with Dublin Airport to try and get those planes to capacity because they haven't any free slots. So the best thing we can do there is try and fill those planes. And they're working really collaboratively with us. I think boat-wise, it's difficult. It's difficult for the steam packet because, they're operating a whole extra service. It doesn't mean extra staff. It means operating it around their core market. journeys, their core schedule. That's what I wanted to say. I think there is a big conversation to be had about Ireland. I think it represents a real opportunity. I think we've got very, very close connections with all of Ireland, but particularly Northern Ireland is a real opportunity for us. I think what it needs is a sustained campaign.
Yeah.
You can't do this stuff and just keep and just do it piecemeal. You have to do it over a period of time. And as soon as you stop, that market starts to drip away.
Everybody's tempted to look back because people will talk in glowing terms through rose-tinted glasses about what the relationships were with the Republic and with Northern Ireland when thousands of people used to come here. Are those days gone? Are we in a new reality?
I think, well, we can see those days have gone in terms of our whole demand. You know, this is not that we won't get the whole factory fortnight from the northwest or the northeast either. But there is a compromise. There is a middle ground that I think would still be very valid to the Irish market. Full stop. As I say, though, those things take work and they don't happen overnight. And when you've stopped pushing them, when you've stopped promoting them, it just falls away. So it takes extra effort and extra cost to try and build it back up. So at the moment, we're just focusing on the quickest wins, the lowest hanging fruit, the areas we know we can convert and we have connectivity to. But in the longer term, we do need a wider conversation about the other opportunities.
Okay. And Ranald, Caldwell, where does the steam packet fit into all this?
A vital lifeline for the island, certainly Deborah's been working very close with them, and you heard Jed's comment in relation to Deborah's challenge on price. And we have to work more closely with the steam packet to look at our visitor proposition, to look at our sailing and our schedules when the actual sailings become available to book. So I don't know, Deborah, you could probably give a better update.
I don't want to steal their thunder. I think there's some updates coming very soon that will be very positive in that respect.
Good.
Okay. And did you upset Brian Thompson, by the way, by talking about that?
No, I did not.
He's not easily upset.
No, Brian and I are great friends. Brian's on our board. When we have to work together, we have to make it happen. Actually, Visit has a job to do in terms of collaboration, just like Destination First does. We have different organisations doing different things, and we need to work together as a team to achieve them.
If I could just jump in on that one, Andy. We discovered through the Destination First board that Onken commissioners, that Douglas Council, that the DOI, they all have report it mechanisms. So your caller earlier mentioned how he comes on and has mentioned for 2 years now. With all due respect, this is an opinion programme. We need people to report the issues through the official channels. If it goes through the official channels, then we within the board can then challenge the departments and the local authorities to say, well, what are your trends? What are you discovering? And what are you finding?
What would the official channels be?
So the Onken commissioners and I will use the Douglas Council and the DOI report it mechanism, and they have an app or through the report it page on their website. It's really easy to use. You know, you can attach a photograph, and that data was collected. However, that's just like a first version of it, really, but it's definitely much better than, you know, jumping on the Mannin Line and saying that, you know, this is important, but, you know, there's no way that people can sort of sit and listen to every a programme to make sure we're picking up on these issues, however long you might have the frustration for. So please report it through the official channels.
Okay, so every commissioner's website will have
not everyone does, and this is what we've discovered through the Destination First board, is there isn't a joint up approach. However, what I'm trying to say is that some are trying. They are trying to capture that feedback, but if you don't give it to them through the official way, then it's being lost sometimes, and that just makes the problem even worse. So maybe when people call through to you, you could remind them to report it, and that might be something helpful for us in Destination First board.
Ranald?
Thank you.
Excellent point, Sarah. We've certainly discovered different reporting mechanisms, and certainly the lack of data and understanding what happens, where it happens, and has it been addressed. So the board are considering putting in a front end that sits on top of all the reporting systems, so that we get a greater usage from the public itself, so the residents, to report issues that they can clearly see where it's gone, what its fate is, and gets not only a reply to say they've got it, but what the end product will be, and it will provide us with the data. So we're going to make it easier for people, as you say, rather than phoning the Mannin Line, but hopefully they continue to do so, but so we can capture those and then look at the key issues and priorities that need to be addressed.
Okay, that's the key. Then make it official. We've got about a minute left. So, Deborah, Heather, TT.
Yes.
Your view.
Oh, I mean, a massive benefit to the island. We got, there were really great numbers this year. We didn't quite have the weather we had last year, but, nature of the beast. I think it's fundamental to the awareness of the island, off the island. We're really punching with that. There's 85,000 people here or so. For people to know us worldwide is because of TT. Okay, and the shortened MGP. Any thoughts on that? I think, it's been reviewed. There are people looking at it. I know that Manx Motorbike and Cycling Club, I'll always get this wrong. It's Manx Motorcycle Club's event. Yeah. The DFE help. We help with it, and obviously we're willing and open to help with it, but I'm not quite sure where the stages are with that, but it's under discussion. Okay. Right. Good to talk to you all today. We've been with Ranald Caldwell, Chair of the new Destination First, Deborah Heather, Chief Exec of Visit Isle of Man, and Sarah Maltby has been here. So what we take away from this is be more positive about the Isle of Man. We love the Isle of Man, and you're toughest on those close to you. But if you see something that's going wrong, report it officially. Thanks for being with us, Sarah. Good to see you
Thank you very
today.
much.
And Ranald, thanks for being with
Pleasure.
us. And Deborah Heather. Shall we do this again fairly shortly? When will be a good time? Before Christmas or after Christmas? We think before Christmas. Okay. Thanks for being with us today. And thanks to Chris Quirk on the phone. If you want to get in touch and follow up on what we've been talking about today, email address is manninline@manxradio.com, out of the show. Of course, during the show, it's studio@manxradio.com. And the answer phone is 682-631. That's it. We're back with an open line tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your 1st of October.
WINT.
With EPS Coatings.
Your house could be looking as good as the day it was painted for 10